Well, it's a crowded Dolphins All Access today as we wrap up practices for all of training camp, really. We had the joint practice today with the Bucs. Mike Cugno, Steve Goldstein, Kim Bokamper joining you now. Bo, you were sitting right there front row all day. Did you like the competitive nature of this one?
I did. I got to see some down and distance. I got to see one-on-one stuff. And then we got to see a little goal line at the end, you know, and you always want to end up training camp on a high. And so they had some goal line down there. Calais Campbell throws that big mid-up 6'8" guy, knocks a pass down. The whole team goes crazy. And I go, it couldn't be a better ending to a training camp. It's really been very good for the Dolphins. They've been, you know, one thing about this training camp, sometimes it gets mundane, but we've been there a lot of times. It's always enthusiastic. They're always on a high energy level, and so this was no different. So I think there's been a great training camp. Let's see how it translates when the regular season begins.
I, for one, am glad that they've moved to this new format of the joint practices every single week. We saw Mike McDaniel after that play by Calais, chest bumping some guys out there. Goldie, the big news out here today was Tyreek Hill, of course, a minor hand injury. You worried about it at all?
Not at all. They take a lot of precaution during the preseason. He wouldn't even be out there on the field. He was out there yesterday. He was out there again today, actually holding his helmet in his hand, even though he couldn't go. Same thing for Jalen Waddle. He was in New Jersey today doing a little bit of work. I think those guys at this point, year 3 in this offense, not only do they not need the training camp, I don't think you even want to see them, because it's really not necessary. And a lot of times with those two, and you know this, Bo, great players aren't just the most talented guys. They're the hardest working guys. They've got to pull them back, if anything else. So, no, not really concerned. I mean, look, if you get a setback and next week he's not practicing as you get close to Jacksonville, maybe then. But it is such a long season that stuff right now for players like that, I don't think matters too much.
Right, and in Jalen Waddle's case, he was banged up throughout the year last year, so you don't need to throw him out there now. Bo, we've got some battles, obviously, to settle this week, but we are going to see some starters. You surprised we're going to see some starters?
I am. I thought there wouldn't be any, but I think he's going to pepper some guys in there they maybe just want to see a little bit more out of and still a little competitive state. But I think he said last week, you know, that the starting units are all pretty well set. You know, he said that last week. He said, look, if we were ready to go, if we were going to start play this week, I know who I'm going to play. I know who they're going to be. I think it's those fringe guys that the battles are really hair trigger tight of who's going to be there that he wants to see between some of the starters. So I think if the starters get in, they're not going to be for a long time, and it's going to be some of the guys that really haven't played as much in this preseason. They want to get a little glimpse of them. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of the stars out there playing, but I think there will be a few of them, maybe for a quarter, and then you know, the big thing for me is kind of looking at this quarterback battle, this backup quarterback battle, how it's going to end up. I'm assuming they're both going to be on the same team, Mike White and Skylar Thompson. It's just who's going to be number 2 and who's going to be number 3.
One of the starters who we may see might be Jordan Poyer. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Goldie, but McDaniel spoke about today how that really that secondary hasn't been together all that much during camp because of the injuries. Do you think that plays a factor if they don't get to see the field this week together?
Yeah, I think Anthony Weaver probably make that call along with those guys because they're all veterans. You know, like, for example, does Jordan Brooks want to get a few more plays in? You know, new team, new scheme, and Poyer's in the same boat. You know, he did have that thumb still a little bit wrapped up. So if there's any inkling at all that, you know, it could get injured even worse, he won't play. But I could see Anthony Weaver wanting to get some of those guys. And the position I'm still looking at is down on that defensive line. You got Sealer, you got Campbell. You think you have Deshaun Hand. Brandon Peely had a couple real good penetrations out here today against Tampa Bay's first team. So they still have to figure out who exactly is going to make the roster on the D-line.
Yeah, well, even if it is the final preseason game, it's not one for lack of storylines. There's still plenty to be decided out here. And, of course, next week is cut down day. Unfortunately, we have to trim it down to 53, so we will have to say goodbye to some of the players we've learned and gotten to know here over camp. But that's going to do it from a festive, I'd call it, summer of camp. Now we just got one preseason game left on Friday, and then a bye week, and then the season starts. So that's it. So
put the pedal to the metal here in a couple weeks, huh?
There we go. There we go. Who's taking vacation? That's my next question.
You probably.
Probably not. All right, that'll do it for Dolphins All Access. We'll see you next time.